My name is Marquessa Brown. I'm going to share with you some very simple instructions for putting a zipper in a dress.
Brown, Marquessa Brown. I like my zipper shaken, not stirred. I'm going to enlighten you on... Shut up, Chelsea.
Keep going. This is the best thing ever. Keep going.
I'm going to enlighten you on the simplicity of installing a metal clasping device into a long female garment.
I believe I'll start with the assumption that everybody listening to this or looking at this isn't going to know two things. They're not going to know how to use a sewing machine, and they're not going to know how to sew. So
Dose items that
That's just a different language than
Shut up, you're ruining my video.
You ruined mine. Sorry. Go.
Two things that I'm going to assume when sharing my instructional resource. And that is, one, that my audience will be unaware of the process of attaching two pieces of fabric together with thread. And number two is that my audience will also be unaware of the inner workings of a sewing machine.
let me start with some very simple directions about a sewing machine and how you operate it.
To begin with, everything. A mechanized process of fabric fusion device is operated as I will tell you.
A sewing machine has a big wheel on the right.
This device has a large circular object on the side that is not the left.
It has a needle and a needle foot in the center.
In the middle, there is a long pointy that is silver and runs the thread through the items, and the base of the long pointy and the bottom plate.
And it has a plate on the bottom. The plate that's on the bottom is directly over the needle, which is located in the needle foot.
So that downmost flatness on the bottom is positioned exactly where the long pointy meets its base.
It also has a pedal that's on the floor. Now the object
As well, on the ground, there is a foot push device that makes the mechanism go vroom.
is you have to mash the pedal with your right foot while holding the fabric with two hands so that the fabric can easily glide through the needle.
On the same side that the large circular device is the side of your own hoof that has to press down.
Sorry.
It has to press down the push starter that's on the floor, ground. It's on the ground. And then when it goes, you have to be very careful when you run the cloth through the machine so that it slides with ease.
And you've got to hold it to kind of keep it from going in all kinds of directions.
You must grasp it in order to contain it and be sure that it is not going all helter-skelter.
So that your fabric won't be crooked and lines everywhere and it's sewn incorrectly.
You do not want your cloth to be zigzaggy and incorrectly fused to itself and not right.
So you don't have to worry too much about the wheel. The wheel just turns automatically. But you've got to learn how to get the right amount of pressure on the foot.
So the circle that is on the machine, you don't have to worry about it. Don't concern yourself with it. It will spin on its own. However, what you do have to be careful with is the amount of pushing you're doing on the hoof pusher runner that is on the ground.
On the foot as you're guiding the fabric through. Okay, so that's pretty much how the machine works. Now
So that is the mechanism, the cloth fusion mechanism works like that.
two ways that you can put a zipper in. You can put the zipper into your garment before you've sewn the entire garment together, or you can complete the entire garment and then put your zipper in.
There are two options, different options, for when you are installing a metal cloth fusion device. One is to appropriate your cloth into the entire piece that you want it to be and then install said metal device. And two is to not form the entire piece and to just use the two cloth pieces that will have the metal collapsing device attached to it and fuse those using the cloth fusion mechanism device.
I think it's probably easier to put the zipper in before you've sewn the entire garment together because you just have less fabric to work with. And I think that makes it a little bit easier when you're trying to guide the fabric through the machine and over the needle.
In order to have the fabric, the cloth, running through the machine with ease through the long pointy, you may consider inserting your metal fusion device before you assemble the entire cloth piece.
Okay, now I'm just going to talk very quickly about how you do it either way.
Rapidly, I will explain each option.
If you want to put the zipper in before you've put your entire garment together, then you want to start with the pieces that the zipper is going to fit in.
Suppose you would like to begin the way that I explained would be easier. You just want to begin by taking the two pieces of cloth that the metal will soon be fused to.
So let's assume that we're making a skirt and we're going to have the zipper in the back of the skirt.
So, for example, if you were to be making the bottom half of a dress, you would want your metal fusion to be in the rear of the finished product.
The skirt, therefore, is going to have an opening in the center, and the zipper is going to fit directly in this center opening.
The metal fusion will be placed in the middle of the rear of the fabric piece in the opening.
So what you're going to do, and I think for new sewers, it's probably best to do what we call a basting first. And
The beginning stage of cloth fusioners, they should do a process called basting.
basting basically means that you sew your zipper in by hand first, simply using a needle and thread. You sew it up one side and you sew it up the other side. It's very important to make sure that the fabric totally covers the zipper.
To begin the basting, you want to fuse your fabric to the metal by your phalanges manually. And so you have to take the long pointy and the fabric fusion string, special string. You don't want any fishing reel. You have to use the fabric fusion string and fuse up one side of the metal and then fuse up the other side. And you need to be sure that you baste it.
So often when people are learning to sew and putting in zippers for the first time, they tend to have the silver or the shiny part of the zipper showing in the middle. But the key when you're basting is to be sure that the left and the right cover the center of the zipper.
Many beginners will make the mistake of letting the metal shine through their cloth. They don't have the cloth cover it, but that is not what you want. You want to make sure that both your dominant and non-dominant sides of your fabric are touching to cover it completely
when you baste it in. Okay, so let's say you've sewn up the left side, you've sewn up the right side, the zipper has, the fabric is totally covering the zipper so that you cannot see your zipper. Now, after you've done that and you've got this one piece of fabric, the back part of your dress, you're going to take it and you're going to lift up the needle. There's a little flipper on the back of your sewing machine. So you flip it up, you take your fabric, you put it under there.
Okay, so you've sewn, you've fused your fabric to your metal. There's nothing showing. So now you want to rotate the circle on your sewing machine to cause your long pointy to ascend, and you hit the lever on the side of your cloth fusion mechanism device first, and then you rotate the circle in order to cause the long pointy to ascend so that it's out of your cloth.
And it's probably better to start sewing on the right side of your zipper. So you take your fabric, you put...
For best results, begin your fabric fusion on the side of your body that the left side of your brain is on. No. The right side. Most people's dominant hands begin on that side.
It under, you let down the lever, you put your foot on the pedal, and you start sewing.
So then you take that latch and you put it back down so that you can begin mechanized fabric fusion, and you push down the floor pusher downer, the floor thing on the floor that you push to start the mechanism.
Hiding your fabric all the time. And you want to sew very slowly. So you're going to...
So you want to grasp your fabric at all times and start at a snail's pace.
Start probably at the bottom, and you're going to sew up one side. Now,
you will want to begin at the base of where you want the fabric fusion to occur, and you'll want to make a line all the way up that side.
if you know anything about zippers, the top part of the zipper is kind of thick. So it's going to be important when you're sewing that when you get to the top part and the needle doesn't go over the thick part of the zipper, that you stop at that point.
In the event that you have prior knowledge of metal fabric fusion devices, you already understand the fact that there's a thickness at the tip of the metal fusion device that you do not want your long pointy to go through. So therefore, you temporarily halt.
So you're going to sew straight up until you get to that thick part of the zipper and you can't sew it anymore. You stop, this is when you're going to use your wheel on the side. You take your wheel and you turn it up so that the needle comes out of your material. You take your fabric out, and then you move it over to the other side. And so you're going to sew again where you did your basting, and you're going to sew that up. When you finish with that, you take it out again.
Okay, so you've temporarily halted. Now we're going to go back to that latch and you lift it up, and then you rotate the circle so that your long pointy ascends, and then you reposition your cloth so that you may start fabric fusion on the other side, and you fuse along the manual line that you've already created.
Pull your zipper down, and then you're going to sew those two places on both sides where it was too thick to sew it with the zipper up. So
now you want to stop after that line, the second line, and you want to grasp the metal fusion device and bring it to the bottom so that you may go back to the tip and fabric fuse where you stopped previously, because it is no longer too thick to fuse.
now that you've got the zipper pulled down, you can get your needle to go through on both sides. That's basically how you put a zipper in.
Since you have hold your metal fusion device to its starting point instead of the ending point, you can get your long pointy through the fabric and you're done. And that is the beginner's guide to sewing to fabric fusion mechanisms and metal fabric fusion devices.